Is there anyone or anything in this world that you would be willing to risk your life to save or potentially save? Welcome back to Lost in Games Unscripted, the series where I talk about pretty much whatever comes to my mind at a given time. And today, that actually is a question that has apparently taken the internet by storm recently. Now, this is something that I had been aware of, I had seen recently, but I didn't know how big it had gotten until somebody mentioned it in one of my comments in a comment on the Ellie video where I was talking about whether Ellie has a moral obligation to sacrifice herself to save humanity. And so I thought I'd give it a shot and just talk about it a little bit because it's right up my alley. So the question itself was originally posted by Tim Urban over on Twitter, and apparently it's since been also posted by people like Mr. Beast, and it's been talked about by a lot of people. But from what I could see, there's nobody that's really taken it on from a philosophical angle. So to paraphrase the question that Tim Urban originally posted, imagine that everybody in the world was plucked up and dropped into a room on their own, all by themselves. And the only thing in that room is a red button and a blue button. And the only information that they are given is that everybody's in the same situation as them, and if more than 50% of the people from the world hit the blue button, everybody lives. But if more than 50% of people hit the red button, then all of the people who hit the blue button die. And the question is, what's the right answer? Which button would you hit? Now, on the surface of it, this is a reskinned version of something in philosophy, a philosophical thought experiment known as the prisoner's dilemma. And what that basically boils down to is that you've got two prisoners, two robbers who have been arrested for committing a crime. Now, the police have some evidence on them, but not enough to really get a strong conviction, right? So they separate them and put them in different rooms, and they tell each of them that if you tell us before your friend does, if you confess and you implicate your friend, you'll walk free, but your friend goes to jail for 5 or 10 years. If both of you confess, then you're both going to jail. If neither of you confess, then you both get a year in prison. And the question is, what's the right thing to do? Now, there's something called game theory, which kind of plays this out. And a lot of people have talked about the red button, blue button thing from the aspect of game theory. What's the right decision to make for you personally? And when it comes to the red button, blue button thing, the right decision to make personally, if you want to survive, is obviously to press the red button, because that's the button that if you press that, you survive regardless of the outcome. Doesn't matter what happens, you will survive 100% of the time if you press the red button. And in theory, a lot of this has been framed, and the discussion has been framed around, well, we should just convince everybody to press the red button. The problem is that most people aren't philosophically minded. Most people aren't logically minded. And in this situation, you don't get the chance to lobby other people. There is no prior thing where you're having a debate back and forth before all of this to try to convince people. This is simply you are taking everybody on Earth from whatever situation they're in, and you're plopping them in this room, and you're telling them you have to choose what button to press. Morally speaking, we've talked about this before, and really, we're the original comment on the video talking about Ellie and her moral obligation. Are you morally obligated to the people who are going to press the blue button to go along with pressing the blue button, just in case, right? Is there some moral obligation to the rest of society? All you need is 50% plus one of people to press the blue button. So if it's like 49.9% of the population presses the blue button and 50.1% of the population presses the red button, everybody that pressed the blue button dies, if it's that close. But even if it's something like 90 to 10, 90% press red, 10% press blue, 10% of the people are still going to die. And the question is, what's the right thing to do? Now, if we're looking at it from something like deontology or utilitarianism, those are two moral systems that give us a pretty clear answer. Deontology tells us that it's never right to take a life in any shape or form, right? If you're following a strict sense of deontology, that is a black and white moral system where you have to put life above all else. You have to do the right thing, never tell a lie, never steal under any circumstances, right? So from a deontological perspective, the right thing to do, because if you press the red button and the majority of people press the red button, then you are technically implicated in the death of those people that press the blue button, whether you like it or not. And it wouldn't be a first-degree murder thing. It's not like you were planning it out, but it would be more akin to a manslaughter charge. You know, for instance, you look down at your cell phone while you're driving, and in the minute you look up, there's somebody in the road in front of you, and you wind up slamming into them, and they die. Manslaughter. You know, you are implicated, even though you weren't trying to, you weren't intentionally killing people, you are still implicated in that. So from a deontological perspective, you would be implicated in that. So you would have to press the blue button. That would be the button that would ensure the people would survive if everybody pressed it. Likewise, with utilitarianism, the right thing to do from a moral standpoint would be to press the blue button, because utilitarianism is the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And in this case, the needs of the many, in order to save the maximum number of people, you would need to press the blue button. Otherwise, you're implicated in killing anybody that dies when you press the red button. From those perspectives, it's pretty simple and straightforward, honestly, but most people don't understand that. Most people are going to go into the scenario and they're not going to know, because I think what a lot of people are forgetting in this, and I mentioned it a little bit, but the people that are debating this back and forth don't realize that you're being stuck in this situation with no prior knowledge, and you're going to have people who are in comas potentially. Like, there's no layout of who all, if anybody's restricted from this. So you could have people in comas, you could have babies, you could have toddlers, you could have people who are mentally handicapped who are in this situation where they don't understand what's going on. Maybe somebody's not, they've got some kind of issue where they can't understand the question. They just like the color blue and they're going to press it. And in that instance, all of those people are just gone, wiped away, if fewer than 50% of the people press the blue button. And this is where, from that standpoint, if you want to be on that side of things, if you want to be, if you feel guilty, you don't want to be implicated in somebody's death, you would have to press the blue button. Now, under that circumstance, there's a possibility you die. And a lot of people have questioned, they've said, well, I think that the majority of people would be selfish. The majority of people would press the red button. So I'm not going to take the chance. I want to live. And while I can understand that, I would argue that I don't think it's the case that the majority of people would press the red button. And the reason I say that is because there are people who put their lives on the line every day for other people. There's a lot of people that do that. Whether it's firefighters, police officers, military. I served in the military. I went to Iraq, not because I wanted to go and shoot other people, but because I felt that it was the best way to protect the people that I care about, but also the people that couldn't defend themselves. That was the whole reason that I signed up for the military. And a lot of people that I knew had the same kind of mentality. I want to protect those who aren't able to protect themselves. It's been true throughout history. And if you go back and you look at something, Nazi Germany was a great example of a situation where you had people risking their very lives, their very freedom and everything to protect other people. They were willing to hide people in the attics of their homes, in the basements. They were willing to do what had to be done, knowing that they could wind up in jail or killed if it was discovered that they were hiding these people. The same thing with the Underground Railroad in the United States when we had, when slavery was going on in the 1800s. You had people who were willing to sacrifice themselves, who were doing what they had to do to protect other people and to bring other people north to free them from slavery and get them north into Canada where they could be free. People have all throughout history shown that they are willing to run into burning buildings. The September 11th attacks in the United States, there were people running into the buildings that were on fire, knowing the possibilities of what could happen, trying to save people. And in reality, that's just something that a lot of people would do without a second thought, because it's just inherently, you want to protect, you want to save the people around you. Not everybody would. And there would be a lot of people who would instinctively just press the red button because self-preservation. There would be a couple of different groups that would press the red button. You would have the people that just inherently don't care and they're looking forward to seeing people die. You have people who are just for self-preservation. They want to save them, they want to live. They don't want to sacrifice themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people have demonized either side. I won't demonize either side. I don't think that you're evil for pressing the red button. Likewise, I don't think you're stupid for pressing the blue button. I think in reality, the situation is that you have to look internally at your own moral compass, and you have to look internally at what you value and where you stand, and you have to ask yourself, what would you be willing to do for those beliefs, for those feelings, the philosophical framework that you build your moral grounding on? What would you be willing to do, and how easy would it be for you to give that up? If somebody comes to you in a situation, put yourself in a situation where a group in society is being ostracized, is being chased, is being demonized, and somebody from that group lives next door to you. They've been neighbors for years. You've known them for years. And you know that people are going door to door trying to find people from this group. And those people, your neighbors, come over to you and say, hey, can you help us out? Can you hide us? Would you be willing to do that? Would you be willing to put them in your house, put them in an attic or in a basement? Would you be willing to do that, knowing that you could go to jail or be killed for doing that? Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the question that this really raises, is where do we stand as a society? Now, in public votes, both on Twitter from Mr. Beast and from Tim Urban originally, more than 50% of people said that they would push the blue button. But of course, that's a public forum. That's a situation where people know that they could be called out for it, and they don't want to be necessarily. So it's a question of what would people actually do in that situation, and what would you be willing to give up and sacrifice for what you believe in? If you go around espousing that you want to see the best for everybody, that you want the world to be a better place, but then you say, but I would press the red button because, I want to preserve myself. You got to look internally, and you got to say, well, do I really want everybody to be, the world to be a better place? Do I really want these things? And you need to start looking at consistency, because you need to be consistent. Either be consistently like, yeah, screw everybody else, I don't care. Or be consistently saying, no, I'm going to do the right thing because I think it's the right thing to do. And you're not bad or wrong. You're human for feeling either of those things. I think we oftentimes in society get too hung up on this idea of we have to ostracize, we have to other this group. If you disagree with me, you're bad, you're evil, you're a terrible human being, especially when it comes to politics, and especially in the past few years. But in reality, it's not the case. You're not evil or bad, you're human, and you're susceptible to what you have seen and the experiences that you have had, and you only know what you know. You don't choose your beliefs. You believe what you believe based on your experiences. So you're not bad or evil, but it's an important thing to look at and really think about. What would you pick if you were in that position? And keep in mind, you don't get to lobby for other people. It's internally, what would I want to do? For me, I'm hitting the blue button. If I die, I die. I don't want to die. But just like joining the army and going to Iraq, while I don't want to die, I'm willing to if I have to in that circumstance. And the question is, are you? If you're not, you're going to press the red button. That makes the most sense logically. You want to live, and nobody can blame you for that. But if you're willing to die for others, if you're willing to die for what you really believe in, the right answer is the blue button. But I want to know in the comments below, what would you press? Would you press the red button or the blue button? And I don't want anybody to be angry or fighting each other or telling each other they're bad or wrong. I will delete comments that are troll comments or comments that are people that are just being assholes for the sake of being an asshole. I will do that because we need to have honest, good discourse, and we need to learn how to debate and talk through these things rather than just hating on the other side just to hate on the other side. But that's all I got for this one. I just want to make a quick video and talk about this because it's a big topic right now, apparently. And I was like, okay, if this is going to be a big thing, it's right up my alley. It's a moral conundrum. It's something to really discuss. I know it's outside the topic of like strictly games, but like, this channel is not just about games, y'all. This is a philosophical channel. I talk about the philosophy of how to look at things, how to think about things. I use games as thought experiments, and the red button, blue button controversy is a thought experiment. So let me know your thoughts down below. If you want to join the Patreon channel memberships, I got all of those going. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, all the basic YouTube stuff. But that's all I got for this one. I want to thank you all for watching. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.